What happens when you purify your body, your mind, your spirit? Something miraculous. The body begins to heal itself. Welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast, where each week we explore new ways to heal your body from the root, igniting your inner healer. You are the medicine. And now, here's your host, Robin Stebbins.
First of all, Jason Christoff, welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. I have been watching you for quite a while, and we are in such alignment with what we see, first of all, and then what we're not willing to stand for and what we're willing to speak out against. Because right now, I think, and this is what I want to ask you about, is that we're in what they call, this is their label, fifth generation warfare. So in your standpoint, let's just kind of encapsulate, the last 3 years is when it brought to most of our attention. It's been going on for
a lot
longer than that. Yeah, the same repeat cycle. So kind of for the audience, catch us up to speed. What is your impression of fifth generation warfare and what is going on right now?
Well, fifth generation warfare is knowing that the average person is well aware that conventional warfare involves cruise missiles and tanks and infantry and things along that line. Those would be the modalities of attack where the average person would actually do something. So these people are aware of that, and they've learned to disarm a population and infiltrate a population through unconventional warfare, psychological infiltration, where there's advantages to the fifth generation warfare as opposed to the regular warfare, because in regular warfare, all the assets are usually blown to smithereens, and the people invading, once it's done, they call back to the headquarters and say, yeah, we won, but everything's destroyed. And then the invading group says, well, we got to put a whole bunch of money in. We got to redo the roads and the sewers. And I can't find that guy's gold. He had time to bury it, or I really liked his house and we blew it up. And this isn't good, because when they invade, they want to take something of yours. So fifth generation warfare is about removing the population through psychological manipulation, making them volunteer for their sort of own euthanasia, so that when the invading force does enter, there's no investment required and all the assets are still there intact to thieve. And so that's what fifth generation warfare is. It's warfare where the result of removing the population is accomplished by tricking the people to remove themselves, therefore maximizing the loot and the reward when you do enter, because basically the people can't defend themselves because they've drank themselves into oblivion, or smoked themselves into oblivion, or injected themselves into oblivion. And it's just the most financially secure way to invade. Although it takes a little bit more time, it's so much more profitable than the other way. And given the fact that legally, the legal system is something that's still very much intact, there is no law on the books where you as a citizen can sue someone if they tricked you to euthanize yourself for your own kids. So if they came and did this by force, there's legal remedies. Like you'd have Nuremberg 2.0, people would go to jail. You could execute people for high treason. There is no high treason charge when there's psychology used to have you trick you to volunteer for your own removal or your own kids' removal. And this is what's going on. Anything from what's going on in the public schools, where the children are being psychologically manipulated to end their ability to reproduce, to the average person volunteering to be locked down or cheerleading businesses closed. This is all about psychologically manipulating the population of the target area to destroy themselves before you come in. And they're doing a very good job, but they are losing ground. They are indeed losing ground at this point.
Well, I certainly hope that's true, that they're losing ground. But
There.
good. Well, I think you're right, because the dark forces, which is what they are, it's just the absence of something. It's not its own entity. And they really, truly don't understand. There's people like you, Tasha Fishman, me, we have pure hearts. We're not in it in a hungry ghost mentality to get money, fame, wealth, more. We truly are here to make this world better. So my question also has been, do you think we're already one world government?
Well, I think the smoke and mirror show of, fake elections. It's obviously that the governments have been working together for a very long time, and they're not really working together. They're actors. They're taking direction from their producer in their main Hollywood studio, which is farther up the food chain. And we've been bamboozled for a long time. But I've been trying to tell people about this bamboozle for 25 years. Someone like Jordan Maxwell is probably 50 years before me. You can go back to Jesus flipping the bankers' tables over in the market, trying to warn people. So this warning process has been going on a long time, but there was always a place to escape from these vipers. And now they're trying to, one ring to rule them all, one ring to bring them together. And this is what we're up against. So everybody sort of has to decide at this point, and it's their own personal decision. It's a decision the average person has to make between living as an infant inside a fabricated reality that's death-centric, or becoming an adult and taking the proper rite of passage from child to adult and dealing with the pain of moving ahead in sort of God's realm and not having this, the handrails of life, not being bubble wrapped. And the decision will probably indicate if you're going to live or if you're going to die. If the real world is so scary that you need to believe in fairy tales like the government's your friend, or that the media is there to inform you, or that your TV and the movie screen aren't documented military weapons to psychologically manipulate you and your kids. If you need to believe in all the fantasy, at this point, you're probably going to die. So there's a big spiritual aspect to this. Are you willing to mature? Are you willing to grow? Are you willing to evolve? Are you willing to become an adult? Or do you want to live as what I call a protein, a lifelong professional teenager that's willing to throw everything of value away for one more hit off the societal crack pipe, for one more day of scrolling, for one more day of pornography, for one more day of drinking wine with the girls? Are you willing to throw even your life away to get your hair dyed or your lips plumped or whatever sort of enjoyment you derive from this fabricated structure of fake feel-good emotions that these vipers set up for us? If you're willing to not grow up, at this point in the game, you will probably die. And this is not my decision. This is the decision of every single person on the planet. Where do you stand? And this is the question of our time: child or adult, fantasy or reality. Take your pick, life or death.
My question I have, though, with that is, I look at myself. I came in never being able to be brainwashed. You can't convince me of anything because you're wearing a bow tie or a white jacket. So that's me. I didn't ask for that. It's just how I came in. A lot of these people that I work with through home health and hospice as a nurse, they've been injected. Now our kids are injected with 84 different noodles. They've been fed Frankenfoods with, we don't know what's in them. They're drinking sodas and sugar, and then most parents now, this is their parenting, is giving their kids a phone and having them learn about the world through electronics, the Trojan horse. So I see that it's not a victim mentality, but I see a lot of it is not their fault. They don't know there's a question to be asked and a choice to be made because it's been nonstop programming up until this point. So the next question I have is, where do you stop the reaching out? Trying to, because like you said, Jesus overturned the table in the church when they're playing poker, and it's not working. I don't think this approach is working. So it's it's a confused question, but how do we approach that sacred dance to reach what I feel is your actual original intact soul that they cannot infiltrate? I think they're trying to. I think they're trying to encapsulate the soul and own it, even after death. But where do we begin and end when we reach out to these people that are so far underneath the programming?
I think there's a point where you realize that your power is actually a physical, measurable thing. And you have to be very careful about anything, not just helping people that are drinking the Kool-Aid. Anything that reduces your personal strength or power, you have to be very careful of. Because the people we're dealing with work in the psychic field.
Yeah.
They work in what's called the etheric field, which is the electricity, sort of the invisible forces of this realm. And if you're always bleeding your energy toward things that will take from it, it means you're going to end up more likely to conform with the next scam, because your ability to push back is directly related to how much internal strength you have. So if you're always lending yourself and lending your strength to other people who just want to live in that infantilized fantasy that coffee is good for diabetes, alcohol is good in moderation, the TV's there to entertain me, the government has my pensions all secure, and if I just do what I'm told, everything will be fine. You have to be very careful how much energy you're going to give away, because if you give away too much, you're going to be open to compliance only because when they launch their attacks, it's like this massive rocket toward all truth tellers. And we have force fields around us. The more powerful we are on the inside, the thicker the force field. Now, if you reduce your power and they're going to fire their next con job, it could penetrate your force field if you've been disrespectful with your own internal strength and energy stores. So anything that drains my energy, I'm very, very careful with. I do dedicate some of my energy to helping people, but I'm not going to give so much energy that it gets vampirized away where I'm left vulnerable to the next attack. Because for me to keep leading for people that want the help, I got to be very careful how much energy I give off to the people who would rather live as infants. And again, that's what it comes down to. Are you a child or are you an adult? And you can even know, as a dad, I can tell you it takes a lot of energy to raise a child. And there's a point where the child has to raise themselves, take care of themselves. And the average person today has never made that rite of passage. They're always looking for the TV to entertain them. They're looking for third-party enforcement of their self-esteem or self-worth. They run out to get jobs. Other people are going to take care of them financially. The pension, the retirement fund, the senior payment, whatever the government's supposed to give at this point. Everything is outside themselves. Everything of power is outside themselves. And they have no power within. So this is the whole game, is that everything that launching at us, and it doesn't matter if it's lies like coffee's healthy for you or alcohol's good in moderation. Everything they've tricked us into doing psychologically, we're doing to ourselves. But if you put them all into one catch basket, they all decrease our personal strength and power. And that's why the average person cannot withstand the impact of the con jobs, because they have no force field. They have no personal power. They can't lean into the attack and come out the winner. They lean into the attack bowls them over like a tsunami, and then, they're a pincushion, and they're still eating Doritos, they're still having pop, they're still playing on their phones. These kind of people are the batteries and energy source for the fabricated, infantilized structure that's going not only to imprison them, but put them 6 feet under.
That's true. All of that you said is 100% accurate. So it's more, I guess, an esoteric, you continue promoting and beaming your light. So your posts are really positive, but they're also straightforward. I think people can say them as aggressive in this woke mentality because it's truth telling, and people see me as aggressive. I get that comment a lot, but I think it's because I'm not afraid to tell someone the truth. I'm not afraid to tell a patient. And this happened the other day. I told a patient she needed to lose weight. She was 300 pounds, and she looked at me like I was speaking another language. And she said her doctor told her that would be dangerous because she would be losing muscle mass. So again, I keep getting this. I'm bumping my head up against the wall, thinking that something that I say, or if they just saw the truth, then they would come to it. But I think you're right. It boils down to that choice. Do I want to stay as an infant with my binky and my next hit? Or do I want to evolve? Do I want to detach from all of these things? Because, we truly know what's not good for us. I made an earnest attempt because I was addicted to my glass of red wine at the end of the day. So I was going to research it and find for sure that it was healthy. There was the good, the biodynamic, the organic with the purified water, like that's the one. But deep down inside, I knew that was a lie. And I just finally had to say, you know what, forget it. I'm detaching from the matrix. I'm going to feel my feelings. I'm not going to run from anything. And we're going to move straight ahead. So again, though, the question becomes, what do we do? Can you and I be healthy if 95% of the population is not?
I'm not sure, but we have an obligation to ourselves. We have an obligation to the society to be the strongest versions of ourselves. A society of infants cannot survive. So there has to be someone sort of giving the counter argument at all time that there's a better way. There's definitely a better way, and then we have to sort of be the beacon. So I don't know if we can do that, but it's our responsibility to try. And it's like, it's thin, it's hard being in shape, but it's also hard being fat. Mm-hmm. It's hard to be poor, but it's also hard to be abundant. It's hard to tell the truth, but it's also harder to live out lies. So both sides of the equation here are hard, but one part of the equation, one side of it has an upside, and one side has a perpetual downside. So pick your hard. Where do you want to make your stand in the hard realm? Do you want to be overweight or healthy? Do you want to be poor or wealthy? What do you want to do? Do you want to live lies as a professional, lifelong teenager, or do you want to live the truth? Both are hard, but there is no upside when you make the wrong decision there. So being truthful with yourself, like this 300-pound lady, she has been taught her whole life as part of the psychological manipulation program that pain is a goblin. And really, if you're a true and empowered, self-directed, independent adult, you realize pain is not a goblin. Pain is a guardian. And when pain comes to visit you, your life can only get better if the pain teacher knocks on your door. So the pain teacher has gone to that 300-pound lady, gone to her doorstep, knocked on the door and said, I'm the pain teacher. I would like to invite you to have a cup of tea in your living room, and I have some very valuable messages for you. Yeah. I, as an adult, have opened the door and said, I am going to listen to the pain teacher, feel the pain teacher, engage in the pain teacher, because I believe the pain has hidden messages for me. And that is what an adult really does. Now, that lady's 300 pounds. No one's born this disempowered. She has to go through decades and decades of psychological manipulation to believe that pain is a goblin. So when you told her you got to lose weight, it registers as a pain and she runs from it, when really the only answer, the only thing that will help her is opening the door to the pain teacher and having a heart-to-heart discussion and saying, you're living lies. Like in the world of this universe that we live in, truth will always increase your happiness. Pain will always bring lies will always bring pain. So the more pain you have in your life, the more lies you're living. And it's up to you to pick them out one at a time. Not many people can pick out more than one lie at a time. And they have to deal with the pain of living in that lie. And once you deal with that lie and listen to the messages that the pain teacher can bring, your life gets better. So she's just afraid of the pain that will come with her making that rite of passage from child to adult. She'd rather live in that fabricated, and it is a satanic fabrication, where everything's inverted. Mm-hmm. And somehow she is the belle of the ball. She is the star of the show. She's in the limelight, not for being her best self, but being her worst self. And she's not getting points for the successes she piles up. She's getting social credit for the failures she piles up. So it's an inverted system, and anybody can be a failure. All you need to do is not get out of bed in the morning and go use your face as a battering ram or a garbage compactor. That's how you can be a failure. So anybody can achieve these high social credit points in our society because there's actually nothing involved with achieving them. Yeah. So it's a full inversion, this fabricated system that these card-carrying Satanists have manufactured for us. There's rewards for that lady for being her worst self, and there's punishments for being her best self, which is a complete inversion of how God's realm really operates, which there's rewards for being your best self and punishments for being your worst. And she likes the inversion because she's afraid of the pain of becoming better.
Well said. Absolutely encapsulates, I think, the pharmaceutical industry, the Western medical model. Well, I'm just going to say the whole medical model, even homeopathy and naturopathic medicine and functional medicine, they're still operating under this same, oh no, Jason, you have a symptom, let's get rid of it. Not stop, that's the body's releasing something or its healing status. Let's figure out how you contributed, not accidentally catching a disease or accidentally catching cancer or whatever else. So we have to look at everything that we've done. So there's the pain, and now we're programmed as an entire population to avoid pain. And when you look at all of that programming, which is really what I kind of want to center around, so that people here can see all of the program, because I've extricated myself now from Telegram after being banned on almost every channel from commenting, because I'm commenting that vitamin D3, I did a podcast with Jim Stevenson Jr., is cholecalciferol, is rat poison. And these medical freedom people are prescribing it like candy. It's a hormone. It's damaging people. It's the same paradigm. So when we're talking about the program, we can say, okay, vitamin D3, you go narrow focus, check that box, don't take it. But if we can pan out and see it's the same game that they've played with everything. Red wine, that's supposed to be like what is it? This resveratrol, this health tonic, coffee's the best antioxidant that you can take. I think if I can go back to the initial problem, is that we allowed there to be an interpreter between ourselves, the divine that comes through us, God's voice through us, and the rest of our experience. So we're taught to believe what you're telling me, not what my lying eyes are observing. They call it anecdotal evidence even. That's supposed to be something that's scoffed at, that you can't use because it's not based in reality. So if you could encapsulate, like, what is the playbook? Because I think at least if you hear the playbook, it might not register now, but it could register 10, 15 years in the future. If you know the playbook, you're not going to be played by it.
Well, the playbook, there's several chapters of it, right?
Yeah.
And they're all psychological. I mean, we can't go over every single one, but they set up systems where they get that child-based goal accomplished. Say, let's just take the medical system. The way our nervous system is designed, what's repetitive becomes comfortable and familiar because at least we have a script for it. So as a child, we're very used to looking up to the authority figure, which is our mom and dad. And we're looking for guidance. We're looking for reward and punishment. We're looking for what's good and what's bad. So as children, we're programmed for so many days of our lives to always be looking toward an authority figure to tell us what to do. And that's really what the medical system is. It's this familiar, really familiar structure that's set very deeply based on years and years of repetition, set very deeply in our neurological system, that this is a familiar relationship I got going here. There's a father figure, sometimes a mother figure. They have the garments of authority with the white lab coat. I'm going to enter and be told what to do. So again, the medical system is a child-based system. It's for children. And children don't want to admit that their cotton candy and their whole box of chocolate bars made them sick. And this is why people like it as well, because the system is set up to never finger the child as the reason for all their problems. The only test your doctor will never run is the test of, can you bring some photographs of your fridge and your cupboards before we begin? And that would scare the child, because the child would be like, oh, mom and dad are going to catch me with the chocolate bars under the bed. Mom and dad are going to catch me with the ice cream deeply hidden in the back of the freezer. And the child doesn't want that. The child wants attention from the authority figure. We always wanted attention from our parents. And it's been proven in psychological research that if the choice is between not getting attention and getting attention as a failure, or because we're in trouble, we'll always take that secondary route where we'll grab our knee in pain or start a fire just to get mom and dad to come even slap us across the face because it feels better than being completely left alone. So our whole neurology is aware that this part of our mind that makes up these decisions for us knows that the hospital system does not make people healthy. So if it doesn't make people healthy, why does the neurology allow us to go in? Well, it's because we're getting attention. And in a world where we feel more and more lonely, more and more disconnected, that might be the only human to touch us or ask us what's going on or ask us how we feel. And again, all these systems fold back into each other. Again, they're disempowering. When you give your power away to a third party who wears the same butcher coat as the butcher down at the, at Loblaws that slaughters the cattle, and you're not even, some people don't even clue into that. It's the same butcher coat. Why does the person who says they're there to help me wear the same butcher coat as the local butcher? If you keep going into this system and you ignore premises, if you ignore the premise that everybody's seen a movie when someone wants to say commit suicide in a movie, they go to the medicine cabinet. It doesn't matter what bottle of meds they take. It's not like the person looking to commit suicide is saying, oh, that one won't do or that one won't do. It could be anything. It could be Ativan, it could be Tylenol, it could be Celebrex, it could be anything. So if you're entering these systems where you come in playing a role on the chessboard, you're the patient, so you're the child. You're coming to deal with the adult figure, the authority figure that's going to save the day and lead you in life. And you don't recognize the fact that the whole bottle of medication will kill you. But you also believe the lie that 1 to 2 pills a day will make you better. There's some pain for you. There's some pain that you're going to have to deal with because you're living out a lie. And in the realm that you occupy at this time, lies cause pain. So the person who lives out one lie will feel less pain than the person who lives out 2. The more lies you're living, the more pain you're going to be in. And most people are going to the doctor because they have pain. And it's time for you, the average person, to realize, maybe I am a child. How could I not have seen that this lie-based belief that 1 pill of poison per day is going to make me healthy, but the whole bottle will end my life? How am I supposed to reconcile that and also be intellectually on side with my spiritual self? So people have to understand that these systems, like when you outsource your power to fix yourself, that disempowers you. Taking poison disempowers you. Lying to yourself disempowers you. Eating bonbons and then thinking that has nothing to do with you being sick, that disempowers you. So where do you think all your power's gone? Is because the fabricated structure that's set up for you to arrive in here on the planet revolves and has always revolved about systems that remove your personal strength and power to the point where you can't resist being a slave. Period. End of story.
Yeah, put a period on that. And I think that, initially it begins 0 to 7, where they take your innate understanding of the world around you, your innate wisdom, and they separate you from that. So they lie to you literally about everything, from where you're living to energy access to primary water. Everything is in set up for your enslavement. So with the medical system, when we're using that model, it's, if you've been set up like that for the first 7 years of your life, to look to authority, to not listen to your own body. Most of the patients I work with have no understanding when I say, what does your big toe feel like? How would I know that? they're so disconnected. It's everything is up here in this small section of their brain. So they're not understanding what their body is signaling to them. And then what I run up against is when patients, first thing I ask them is, do you want to get better? I mean, they'll say, oh, yeah, of course I do. But it's more, here's a magic wand. Now you're ideal weight and you have no diseases. But when I say, are you willing to stop drinking a 12-pack of Pepsi a day? Or are you willing to change anything about your life? No, I'm not. So you're not willing to change, or you're not willing to let go of the attention. Some people get attention for the first time when they get the cancer diagnosis, or they're now the star of the show, like you said, but it's all based on the programming. It's all for the negative, the shadow, the illness, the sickness, the disease, everything that we're seeing play out right now. So in that question, then, where do we go from here?
Well, again, it is hard for people to get better when they get their emotional needs met when they're sick. That's where it gets difficult. So in our society, you'll see that the front page of the newspaper is never someone like me. It's a person in a wheelchair, someone who just got their arm cut off at the subway, someone who's got diabetes and lost their hand. They will always give the limelight over and over and over again to people that have given up. And not everybody in that category is in that position by their own means or their own motivation. But when the subconscious mind pathway, which is a very specific part of our neurology, its job is to capture repetitive images or themes in the environment where we live, and then come up with a script to bond with that repetitive content in an attempt to bond and be safe with the bigger group. So the people who rule us know that this is how our behavior operates. The average person knows that there's things going on in their body that they're not in control of, say their heartbeat, their menstrual cycle, a cut healing, their hair growing. So the average person knows, okay, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of stuff going on inside the body that I don't control. They really have a hard time believing that the most of their behavior, it's been shown that up to 93% of your behavior is manufactured through the subconscious mind pathway based on you, outside your conscious awareness, mimicking the most repetitive content of your environment in order to bond with what it would conclude is the bigger herd. The most repetitive content would reflect what the bigger herd is saying, thinking, or doing. And if you act that out, you're going to be safer. So the average person doesn't know anything about this. So that's where sort of their healing is going to begin. I don't know what question you originally stated, but the average person has a hard time getting healthy or changing their behavior where the most repetitive cues in their environment are against getting better.
Yeah.
And this is what we have today, is that the most repetitive cues that will give us the emotional stability that we need to feel safe are like, go down to the clinic and wait in line to get your new medicine. It's cheered, it's revered, it's promoted, attack people who aren't in the group. If you comply, you get a free hamburger, a free French fries, free beer. There was jabs for joints in Washington, D.C. So those things might all look different to the average person. But to your neurological system, they're just things that your neurology counts without bias and makes up this script. And the script says, if you just do this, you'll be safer. Now, the old repetitive content, the old world, would give us repetitive content that was uplifting, that was healthy, that was progressive, that was evolutionary. The people who rule us know about this invisible governing system, inside our own neurology that's based on counting the most repetitive content in our environment. So they control the most repetitive content in our environment. They drown us in a tsunami of disempowering content, knowing that we will act it out in real time unconsciously. And let me give you an example of this. In 2001, there was a movie called Gone in 60 Seconds. It was with Angelina Jolie and Nicolas Cage. It was a movie about car theft. The car theft was very repetitive in the movie because Nicolas Cage's brother was going to be killed by a local thug. Nicolas Cage was an ex-car thief, one of the best in the business. And the thug said, "You're coming out of retirement to steal 100 cars from me tonight, or I'm going to kill your brother." So this is the plot. The car theft was very repetitive from there on in. Now, let me tell you about this invisible counting part of the mind. It doesn't know the difference between real life, screen time, and imagined thought. So as a cinema watcher, if you were watching Gone in 60 Seconds, your brain does not know it's on the screen, and the average person can understand that. Go watch a scary movie. If there's a scary part, you will sweat, your heart will beat faster. You have the neurological reactions like it's real. So when that movie came out in Burnaby, BC, Canada, and you can listen to this by Dr. Jerry Croft at Santa Clara University in California. When this movie came out in Burnaby, BC, Canada, car theft went up 70% in the first 4 days. And then the dispatcher was like, "Oh, this is really weird. We're getting some similar calls, some similar activity, increase in car theft around BC, British Columbia." And someone's like, "Well, is that stupid movie there?" And yes. So the thing is, humans copy, mimic, mirror, and emulate the most repetitive content of their environment, all outside their control, conscious control, in an attempt to bond with the bigger herd to say, "I'm part of you. Am I safe yet?" Mm-hmm. So the average person today will have a hard time adopting healthy behaviors because this part of the brain that they're never educated on is actually the one that's leading their behavior, and it is doing what it's always designed to do, but it's being manipulated because the repetitive content that our human farmers riddle throughout our movies, our TV shows, and our radio songs are all about death-centric or disempowering activities, which hypnotizes the average person to only pursue death. That's how simple it is. And if you can control the content of your environment to where you only expose yourself to repetitive positive content, which is what I teach in my international school. I have a psychological reprogramming institute, so that, because you can't fight this system. It is in you. You are born with it. It is standard equipment. When you fly out the womb, you have systems that automatically take care of your safety. One of those automatic systems is your behavior system to mimic the most repetitive thing in your tribe. And that's why this group takes full control of the media, the radio, the movies, the TV shows, the print media, and the billboards, and everything is death-centric, so that the average person is actually committing soft kill suicide over many years, but is also confused why they do it, is because this system you cannot interfere with. It will rule your life. So your only option is to control and psychologically manipulate yourself, controlling the repetitive imaging that you expose yourself to, so you can either let the black sorcerers of Hollywood control what is downloaded into your subconscious pathway, or you can do it yourself. There is no door number 3. There is no third option there.
I agree with you 100% on that. That's exactly the programming. I think that is the only reason we have Hollywood. It's to get us to worship these stars. They even call them Hollywood stars. And so that what they're doing, monkey see, monkey do, when you're not in your own power and you're not listening to your soul's voice, you're easily manipulated by what you're seeing on the screen. And like you said, I believe we are programmed from birth to sabotage ourselves, because why would I have to form an army and control my slaves if I can just get them to fight this war inside themselves? Then you're weak. You're not linked up. You're not this strong warrior. You're fighting my fight for me within yourself.
You're taking yourself down. And when they want like big changes in society, they're going to come like poisoning people or tricking people to poison themselves by their own hand. You're going to get to the point where they're so poisoned, a lot of them will cross over into death. But the people who do stay alive during a mass poisoning like that, they would be just right on the border of death, which means they're living, but they're the weakest bodies, the weakest spirits, the weakest souls in the living realm. So when you want to put people under the most mass compliance, you're more apt to comply if you're weak. So if you want a population to comply with the most illogical and most irrational dictates ever, you have to maximize the weakness in the population to the point where you're going to use such high doses of poison, you're going to push a lot of them over the edge. But the people who remain will be the weakest humans ever on the face of the earth. Therefore, they will have the least amount of ability to resist. And if you are going to launch a psychological, changes in the society that are completely satanic, this would be the only way to accomplish it. You have to push every single person to that line. Many will drop over, but who's over left, they'll be so weak, they probably would have zero ability to push back. And again, the foundation of my teachings is everything that improves your internal strength and power. It brings you farther away from that line between the death and the life zone. And the stronger you are, the farther you are away from it, your force field is thicker, and you can resist the most out of anybody in the tribe. Therefore, leading by example and trying to give the other tribe members something good to emulate, copy, mimic, and mirror. Because when the tribe man that's strong is removed, and you notice most of the people passing today are strong male athletes, that has its own talk all on its own. But when you remove the male strength, everybody becomes much weaker. And that's why the male is sort of the primary target of everything that's going on. If you see someone sort of passing away suddenly, you will notice that they are a young, strong male in about 70% of the cases. So there's a lot of psychological operations going on, not just with tricking people to poison themselves, but also the poisons are sort of handmade and crafted and custom delivered in a way where they're going to take out the strong male force first, leaving the children in the female and only the beta males in this thick maple syrup of weakness. And then, of course, you let the wolf in the hen house at that point, and it's a bloodbath.
So that's kind of what it goes back to what we started with, this 5th generation warfare. You attack the strongest, healthiest of the herd first, and then create this division, anger, fear with all the next nonsense that we're seeing on our scrolls. If that's where you're lending your eyes to, I don't recommend that. But so, do you have any opinion on the end game? I mean, my opinion has always been that it is more of a transhuman agenda, so that they don't have to take into account any variabilities anymore from now until the end of eternity. So if we're transhuman, meaning we don't really have a gender, and we have a brain chip that hooks us up, so we're merged with AI, then we're sort of a hybrid, a chimera with the machine that is under complete control without anything left to chance.
Yeah, the end game will play out, hopefully not, but if it does, it would shock most people what the ultimate end game here. We're not dealing with humans at this point. We're dealing with a force that occupies weak humans. This is another part of the weakening agenda, because that force field I talk about is also our spiritual immunity. And we basically have a car, and our soul can take the car keys and drive us around. Now, if our spiritual immunity is damaged, someone else can grab the car keys and drive us around. And so we're dealing with a force here that is a hijacking force. And if you were to hijack a human and drive that human around, who would you pick if you were an evil force? Of course, you'd pick Bezos and Gates and Biden, and because where, if you're evil, where are you going to have more power? They're not going to hijack me. They probably couldn't get through my force field regardless, but they're not going to hijack the bum down on the side of the road begging for money. If you were an evil force that could occupy any body, if it's weak enough for infiltration, would you not occupy some of the most powerful people on the planet?
Yeah.
So the end goal,
the hungry ghosts. There.
You want to get the rich people and have some fun in the rich bodies. But the end goal is something we won't mention here today because it's so biblical, and so the people have been conditioned to not pay attention to any of the ancient texts. So we're just going to lose people if we were to mention what's really going on here. But what the average person should focus on is, regardless of the end game, you're going to have to start combing through your pain, figuring out the lies that are causing the pain, increase your power and your strength by understanding how power and strength and the internal fortress that you are operates, and start cutting away the tentacles that are sucking your power out, and start attaching the components that increase your personal strength and your personal power, or the next cruise missile con that comes your way, you will not be able to have a proper shield to defend yourself from it. You will comply. Your compliance is based on your strength, financial strength, physical, spiritual, intellectual, moral, ethical, and pick your hard, pick the way you're going to pass, because everybody passes. It's like the average person doesn't think they're going to pass away. And so you're going to have to pick your hard, pick the way you're going to pass, pick the way you're going to leave the planet, and pick all this stuff, because on either side of the equation, there's going to be pain. And the average person today just says, yeah, I'm just going to do one more hit off the societal crack pipe. I'm just going to take one more draw, one more puff, one more. I'm going to do one more, I'm going to watch one more movie, and I'm going to deal with it later. I'm going to have one more hamburger, one more Big Mac, one more chocolate bar, take one more medication that screws up my brain function and decreases my power, and I'll deal with all this later. There is no later, it's now. And you can either jump in, ride in shotgun with Satan, or you can ride shotgun with God. And there is no door number 3 here. And this is what's really going on at this point. And evil is live spelled backwards. The word devil is lived spelled backwards. So if you want to live and you want to keep living, make sure you understand who you're supposed to ride shotgun with here. Because if you pick the fabricated, infantilized, illusion-based fantasy that the evil force has set up, this simulacra, if you pick living in there, there's nothing in there that lives alive, and 6 feet above ground. That's what the transhumanism is. You won't live in there, you will die. And they will harness your energy as a battery to power the simulacra. These are the choices. So forget about the end game. Do you want to increase your power and become a fully functional, empowered adult? Or do you want to keep living out lies as an infantilized, dependent child living in a simulacra of fake feel-good emotions that come from chemicals and screens? You got to make your choice, and you got to live with your decision.
Well, and that really answers the question about what is our solution to this. And it isn't to go out and proselytize the truth, but it is to hone in on everything that you have subjugated your power to and release those. Release any tethers, any addictions, any habits to any substances, so that when you're in alignment, I really truly believe that when you're in alignment with your soul, you know what to eat. You know what's the next step in service of the light. I believe you're either in service of the light or in service of the darkness. And knowing full well that when you're in service of the darkness, it's not actually service to anything. It's lack thereof. And that's why I say this shadow and this dark force it's the hungry ghost. It will never be enough. So they conquer the world. They conquer all the humans. Like, what are they going to rule over then? It's not sustainable. Capitalism and this whole wealth system, it's never sustainable. It will never be enough. So
go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, when you're feeling that truth from within, you can hear the vibration of your soul. The fear is loud, peace is quiet. Your soul's voice is very quiet. That's why you have to get still and not have these satanic movies and music and everything else coming in your ears. You have to have this silence without substance to hear that soul's voice. And I believe, Jason, that when people hear you or they hear the truth coming from that place of the light, coming from the God within you, they listen. Because I think we're craving, at this point, authenticity, we're craving truth, we're craving connection, true connection. Because we do have a point, I think, of critical mass, of saturation, of candy. And I think collectively we are getting more sick of it. So that was a main thing I wanted to ask you is like, how much more do we do? How much more do we put ourselves out there on social media? Because I think they're coming for, it's a tiered approach. They went after the big influencers first and either subjugated them or influenced them. And then it's no matter what you say, you got to be very careful of your electronic footprint with this cabal or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I think you can take strength in it that they don't have. If they had the power to force us to do these things, they would have done it by now.
That's what I have.
So understand that they do not have the physical force to go out and put people down on the lawn, 4 goons, 1 on each wrist, 1 on each ankle, and put the medicine in you and make you drink wine and like Clockwork Orange, put you in front of the TV with the clothespins opening up their eyes. They don't have the power to do that. Now, if you realize that the power they do have comes from you, all you need to do is do everything you can to disempower them. And the only way to disempower them is to take your power back. And this is how they maintain their power. They remove and destroy yours. Like when you get up in the morning and drink a cup of coffee, and if you think coffee is healthy, unfortunately, you don't understand how repetitive-based mind control operates. You can reach out to me for some information on coffee, or you can simply read the book Caffeine Blues by Stephen Chernisky. and you will find out coffee is pure and utter poison. And that's the only reason it's on every street corner. I will let you know that there are no coffee shops. This whole operation would not be happening because of the way caffeine affects mind function and brain function in different parts of your neurological complex. That's one aspect. When you get up and you have a coffee, disempower yourself. You're going to a job you don't like, disempower yourself. You waste time watching a screen when you get home, disempower yourself. Wine, disempower yourself. Junk food, disempower yourself. You have a cigarette, disempower yourself. Smoke a joint, disempower yourself. Do you really think it's your natural human design to disempower yourself on so many different fronts and such a frequency? It's impossible.
Yeah.
But through psychological manipulation, they can get you believing that a death-centric lifestyle where you're committing soft kill suicide and weakening yourself every single day. You're giving your power to them. You're giving your self-esteem to them, which is like a fractal of your power, your self-confidence, your morality to them, ethics. All those things are characteristics and facets of your power grid. And the more of those characteristics that you give away to them, the more powerful they become and the less powerful you become, because the more weak you are, the more you take command from them. So
and or you fight yourself too. Emphasis point on that. They don't have to do it. You're already doing it for them.
You're not fighting yourself. You're destroying yourself. Like there isn't any punchback. There isn't any counter argument or counter punch to most people. Yeah, they might go to the gym, but they'll take a shitty pre-workout full of other toxins, including caffeine. So what looks like, it's almost like they can't participate unless there's a sprinkle of death over it. They can't go to a graduation unless they have a sprinkle of alcohol death. They can't go on the airplane and relax without getting some food that would choke a maggot on the cart that comes down the middle of the airplane. They always have to have a death-centric or a death angle to everything they do. And they don't understand that repetitive content is taken in because it's there and riddled throughout our environment. We are becoming death-centric human beings. No one's really interested in living because the most repetitive content is about death. Everything's about death and blood and gore and Satanism and darkness, things that are rotting and things that destroy life. I'm going to cut off my own genitals. I'm not interested anymore. I'm going to save the planet. I'm going to go to Canada's MAID system, which is it's called medically assistance in dying. Everything's about death. There's nothing about life. And the more you swim in that sort of liaria, the more death-centric you're going to become because of how your subconscious mind pathway dictates your behavior on your behalf outside your conscious awareness. So I don't know where that rant started, but
well, I can add a little bit to that because what this is, you just lit up a bunch of light bulbs for me. It's they pre-program self-sabotage. So I see that with what's going on. They don't leave any stone unturned. Spiritual community, Galactic Federation, whatever it is, they have that same, like now I see this death-centric infused within it. Will give you your cake, but underneath the icing is a pile of crap.
Absolutely.
Like it,
downside.
Yeah. So now I see why one would want to go and be deprogrammed. And it sounds like this school that you've started is exactly what that is. But first you have to do the one thing that I say counts for everything. You have to make the decision that you want to heal. You want to be in alignment with your potential, your true power. But can somebody just get there willy-nilly to say, okay, now I've extricated myself from the matrix. I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink coffee. I grow my own vegetables out in my yard. But yet something still feels misaligned.
Well, there are some people like that, but It's usually because they don't understand the exposure, what they're exposing themselves to. They could just be listening to the radio and they don't understand how much that impacts people. If people get on my email list at Jason, they can email me at jason@freedomfromselfsabotage.com.
Can be down there in the link.
And I will give you videos. So let's say you love your wine, love your coffee, love your Doritos, your cake, your Netflix, and you're basically draining your power off, and there's a collar around your neck and it's attached to Klaus Schwab's hand. Let's say that. You get on my email list and I will show you video proof that will leave your jaw on the floor, that your behavior is not controlled by yourself. That's usually the first step. So when someone sees a couple of my video displays where this mind control technology influences someone's behavior in only minutes, where the person doing the influencing already knows the end result, they're going to bring them there, and then they expose that they did bring them there after it was done. You'll need to put duct tape around your jaw and you'll be like, oh my God, I use videos that literally bring that reaction out of humans. I can't believe I just saw that. And then I will get your interest. And then if you want, you can do some of the very inexpensive programs I have that will teach you. I have a new program releasing in September that teaches every facet of removing their tentacles in you and then you building your internal power and strength. It's called The Power in You. And if you'll learn about that when it launches, and if you need to learn about that, just get on my email list just for the entertainment value alone of the videos I share, and start increasing the repetitive content in your favor so that you start dealing with the harsh reality that we all live in. It's painful to deal with the harsh reality, but it's also extremely more painful to ignore it. So pick your heart, pick your pain, pick your path. And again, I can help you get there slowly, because when you want to reprogram, it's better to get there slowly than trying to take the Band-Aid all off at one time.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I highly encourage you to email Jason, because my feeling on this is that I'm here to show people there's a question to be asked and a choice to be made. And I really truly believe a lot of people, they're sent home from the hospital with Gatorade and saltines. They think it's healthy. They think it's good for them. They really truly do believe that. So start unprogramming yourself to know, at least to ask yourself that question. If you want to be that guy in the Matrix that wants to go back in, then I'm okay with that. You've seen the opportunity in front of you. You're not just blindsided without any different avenues to take. You're just shown this one narrow pathway. So Jason is here to help you see there is another way. And, if you have time for just one more question, when we're kind of navigating this, why don't we want to just stay in the Matrix with our head down, eating the Matrix food and getting reprogrammed every day with Netflix and the news? Why go through the pain of waking up?
Well, you're going to have to figure out those reasons for yourself. There is no upside to staying in the Matrix, because the end goal of that is harness all your energy. And if they harness all your energy, it means there's none for yourself. Like a taxation rate of 100% means you don't have anything to keep yourself alive.
Right.
So, and that's where they're going. They don't want you to have any resources to stay alive because they need your house, your bank account, your pension, your RSP, your lawnmower, your diamond ring. They need to feed that as energy into their sort of black magic sorcery in order to create more energy and more money so that they can keep casting their spells. Like I tell people, what do you think it really costs to make the average human believe that poison is medicine? Like if you could name a price tag and know that that money is already being spent, what do you think it costs as a price tag to tell children that genders are all over the place and that there's more than two? Like, what do you think the price tag is for that? What do you think the price tag is to convince people that shutting down farmers so that you can't eat is a good idea? Like, what do you think the price tag of these agendas really are? And when you realize, like, these agendas have price tags for them to accomplish, you could turn every citizen the opposite sexual orientation that they're born. You could. What's it going to cost? And then you'll realize why they need all your assets and all your energy. Because to foot these bills, you need nothing. You can't have any wealth. They have to steal it in order to accomplish these goals.
But I mean, they can also just print more money and give it to, I think it's $1 million per child to transition to another gender.
Yeah, but the thing is about that money system, it's not exactly what people think. It's an energy system. And when you print, the energy just gets diluted. It does not get increased. So more money doesn't mean more energy. They have to come out and get your energy, which is your house, your car, your savings, your pensions. They have to transform that into the monetary energy they need to accomplish all these goals. The money printing alone will not accomplish these goals. These are massive goals. The enslavement of the entire species comes with a price tag of potentially $800 trillion. You can't print that out. You have to steal it from people who already have that wealth. So these goals are massive goals. And this is why you have to increase your energy, because you're going to have to resist their attempts to trick you to give your wealth to them, because they don't have the force, the power to steal it by force. You will have to volunteer it. And if you're not strong on the inside, you will volunteer. You'll volunteer for your own euthanasia if you got celebrated with a gravestone that said Phyllis died for the planet.
Yeah.
And there is no issues with the planet. But they know humans like attention. They like to bond. They like to get celebrated. They like the limelight. They like the promotion. They like to be on stage and given the gold star, the 5, the 10 out of 10, or the Smurf stamp. That's what really motivates the human. So, again, the advertising campaign that will say, look, if you just give away all your freedoms and become a slave, you'll get in the limelight. That system of promotion that will bring people there, very, very expensive. And that's why they need all your wealth. And that's why all this psychological operation is all around guilt and shame, because nothing disempowers humans and steals their power more. Guilt and shame has been proven the lowest vibration to come out of the human body ever measured. The highest is authenticity. And that's why anybody listening to this will feel the authenticity. It's above love. It's above gratitude. The highest vibration is authenticity. The lowest is shame and guilt. And that's why they say, if you don't do this, you're going to kill someone's grandmother. Your breath is a danger because it's CO2. You living here, oh, this is bad. You're wrecking the earth. Poor Mother Earth. You're hurting your mother. You're born a sinner. You're born a biological screw up.
Born the wrong gender, born.
You got a lot of problems, don't you know? And if you look at any abusive situation between a parent and their child, it's the guilt and shame that lowers their energy the most. And this is exactly what the ruling forces are doing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Born a sinner. That's their original card on the poker table. That's their original card they play. And they're like, okay, how about now we'll say, your breath is bad. I mean, they've told people that breathing is bad. Now, if you don't understand, that is a major guilt and shame weapon to lower your vibration. And if your vibration is low in the guilt and shame frequency zone, you'll look the same. You'll look like me. I look okay, but you'll have no power.
Right.
So then you're just, then the next scam comes around the corner, and then you fall for it, not because you're stupid, but you got no power to resist it. Where's your energy? You got no energy. You're a guilt and shame machine. You don't eat right. You don't go to bed on time. You don't drink good water. You don't stretch. You don't exercise. You don't get in the sun. You think that life's like about fun instead of like about enjoyment instead of education. And they got you. They totally got you. So make sure people understand this is about you looking the same as you did today.
Yeah.
But you better have some power and strength resources under that skin so that you can start talking properly, walking properly, taking action properly, leading your tribe properly. So this is all about strength and power within, and this is what I teach.
That's so well said, because again, that lit up a few more light bulbs about the playbook. And the playbook is to create that war within yourself about everything. The keto diet, the paleo diet. If you're not eating keto, you're going to feel guilty about what you're eating. If you're not doing this diet or that diet, guilt, it's my cheat day, it's my guilt food, whatever it is. Everything that's coming in our energy field creates guilt, shame, and then lowers our power so that you are then weakened.
All the time. Remember Deborah Burks in the initial stages of the PSYOP, she came out and said, don't sing in church because it throws the invisible enemy, the pathogen, farther into the air. And again, if you can't sing and bond and celebrate, weakening. And then, indirectly, if singing brings the, this lethal thing out into the open, breathing will as well. So indirectly, you're casting negative magic on yourself. Yeah. My breath is a weapon. We need to breathe as God's creatures. As soon as you believe that your breath is a potential threat to the person next to you and their breath is a threat to you, divide, fear, shame, guilt. And of course, you walk around like you're a sinner.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That you're broken, you're born broken. And then they say that, well, the best you can do, everything's about you're born broken, and the best you can do is X, Y, and Z. You're born genetically faulty. The best you can do is walk around and take toxic drugs for the rest of your life. Your breath is a weapon. The best you can do is wear a mask. You're born a sinner. The best you can do is walk around in guilt and shame your whole life and pray for forgiveness, hoping to God that you get through the pearly gates, even though you're a walking cluster F. This is the oldest trick in the book. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the manipulation of the human mind. The foundations of the religions are clear: ethics and morality. This has nothing to do with ethics and morality. This is unethical, psychological manipulation of people to make them feel guilty and shameful, to lower the vibration so that they do whatever they're told. And if we don't start talking about this stuff, increasing our power, people might even say, you sound very intelligent when you talk. This is the natural way of expressing yourself. If you have internal power, you can get there. Everybody can get there. Decouple from the structures and systems that suck you dry, your internal strength and power.
So you can then, okay, so then people can go to, they start getting your emails. They're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how programmed I was. So then the next step would be they can take this university of courses to start to deprogram.
Oh yeah, everything. And it's inexpensive and you can pay by the month, because if you don't do it, I'm getting blasted off the planet too. So I try and make it as inexpensive, as easy to walk into as humanly possible on my team's side, so that we can get as many people empowered. And we don't want you in like a cult. We want you empowered, decoupling from what disempowers you, and walking out to wherever your tribe is, not talking to us again. Go lead by example out in your own tribe so that we can get this going in the right direction. And I let you know it is going in the right direction right now. The sides of evil, they're running out of energy, they're running out of money, they're having a hard time. But let's get this sort of strengthening thing as our proper foundation. Pick our heart, pick our path.
Yeah.
And let's get moving in the right direction here.
Yeah. And I say take your eye off of the them, because it's easy to get sucked into another energy drain trying to figure out who they are and what they're doing. It's all comes back to take it from within, heal yourself. And then you shining in your light, lit up in your true power and walking in your potential will inspire so many more people than when you're trying to shovel information down their throat and toxify through your words to them, because you're doing more harm than good. I think separating yourself and creating more anger, division, fear, instead of, somebody comes up to you and say, Jason, you look amazing. What are you doing? It's now we have a connection.
Yeah. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And they're coming. But what you want to be is strong when they come knocking on your door. Like when Mr. Smith attacked Neo, walked down the hallway and Neo is just like blocking his punches, pushes him back. Mr. Smith flies back in the hallway. You got to have the power flowing towards you, in you, and through you before they come. And you're not going to get that power flowing through you watching Netflix, hand down your pants, eating some ice cream. You're not going to get there. And you're going to be transferred in all your energy, including your life force, into their system.
Right.
So, and that system might never let go. Like you said, we don't want to get in there, but it might never let go of the circulating energy that you came to this place with. So it's important to understand that the morality and ethics here, two facets of your power. There's many other facets. You can learn to improve all the facets, lead a better life that has an upside. It is hard, but all the upside is in the betterment pathway, not the stagnation, infantilized pathway. Become an empowered, fully functional adult, and you will never go wrong, regardless of whatever is going on in the world.
Two little small explanation points I want to put on that. When you become Neo, you see the playbook for what it is. So you're not played by it, and you're not in fear, and you're not in uncertainty. It's just almost lackadaisical. I'm going to dodge the bullets because I see it for what it is, and you can't scare me. And I do believe when you're not in fear and in anger and in the guilt and shame, your energy creates some kind of force around you so that they can't see you and they don't come after you. You're not visible to them because you're not functioning at that lower vibration in their shadow. And then also I want to point out what you said, you have all these courses, they're inexpensive. I want to put an emphasis on that because I see that a lot of people get lost in trying to make a lot of money through these things and keeping most of the people out financially. I've seen some courses upwards of $5,000 from some people I was following. And I think that's more of what we're trying to extricate ourselves from. So when I look to people to follow, I always look at that. How much are they charging for things? What's the content? Are you getting what you're paying for? Is it just somebody's trying to suck another monthly payment out of you? So I really appreciate you doing that for us and connecting with us and being so, available. I think that's amazing. So thank you for all that you do, Jason Christoff. Thank you for spending this time with me, lighting up this hour and a half, and for doing what you're doing. You are a true warrior. I think you're actually in your masculine, in your potential, and I appreciate that more than I can express in words.
Thanks for having me on, and I just do it. I mean, I want to be my best, but I can't be my best until everybody kind of steps up and is their best. So it's the easiest way for my life to get better is to help everybody up a level. That's why I do it. I'd like to have some calm in my day, walk the street without worrying about this stuff. But again, it's all about building the strength. And don't forget that the word neo is an anagram for NOE, which means the magic no. And that's what the best power, like E is a sign, it's known as the fifth element. E is the fifth letter of the alphabet. It's actually known as the ether, the electricity, or the invisible magic. Neo means the magic no. And this is what we all have to give, is next time they come with a force field that we will build up a thick force field to their next agenda, we can move that magic no out from us and say, no, here and no further, you're going to back down. And that's what we all have to practice on, increasing our power to give the magic no. So thanks for having me on today.
Amen to that. And thanks for being here, Jason.
Always a pleasure.